bronze statue of a famous hero fell on me and killed me the day it was raised. In my next life, 800 students watched me summon a naked level 1 goblin, and the academy expelled me before he finished sneezing. The sneeze was small, the laughter was not. It rolled through the grand hall in waves. Sons of nobles pointed from the front rows. Scholarship students looked away because they knew bad luck could spread faster than fire. Even the summoned beasts joined in. A red wolf barked. A silver bird made a sound like a spoon hitting a glass. My goblin rubbed his long nose and stared at the polished floor. He was shorter than my shoulder. His green skin was pale, his ribs showed, and his only equipment was a piece of rope around his waist. The appraisal crystal above him announced his details in a cheerful voice. Goblin, level 1, no combat profession, no weapon. Estimated value, 3 copper. 3 copper was less than the hall charged for a cup of water. Professor Miles lifted the expulsion notice as if he had been waiting all morning to use it. Caleb, your summon failed to reach the minimum combat grade. Your scholarship is cancelled. Your room must be empty before sunset. The crystal carried his voice to every seat. I looked at the 7 students who had failed before me. 2 were nobles. They had received new summoning stones. One had failed twice and was eating sweet cakes while servants prepared his 3rd attempt. The rule allows a 2nd attempt, I said. Professor Miles adjusted the gold chain on his robe. Sponsor insurance covers their stones. The Academy paid for mine. The Academy has decided not to waste another. That answer earned more laughter. Hugo stood beside a silver knight 12 levels above my goblin. His family had donated the new arena roof. More important, he was ranked 2nd. If I lost my scholarship, the Academy would move its funding to the highest noble student without a full grant. Hugo would receive 80 gold for equipment and private lessons. He did not hate me. He wanted 80 gold and his father's approval. The smile on his face said he could enjoy both. Do not make this painful, Caleb, he called. A goblin is useful. He can carry your bags when you leave. His friends laughed before he finished speaking. They had practiced. I did not argue. Arguments were expensive and rarely sold for a profit. I counted what I had instead. 1 goblin, 3 silver in my pocket. 1 hour before the ceremony ended. 800 witnesses, a rule Professor Miles had forgotten. The Academy Charter grants every new Summon 1 calibration test, I said. The result must be entered before dismissal. Miles stopped smiling. A girl in the 3rd row raised a hand. Tessa was the only student who read summon research for pleasure. She kept her dark hair tied back and carried more pencils than some soldiers carried arrows. He is correct, she said. Article 21. The test can be craft, support, or combat. Miles looked at her, then at the recording crystals floating near the ceiling. He could ignore me. He could not ignore the charter while 800 families watched through those crystals. 1 hour, he said. At the West Practice Yard. If the creature produces no measurable value, the dismissal stands. Hugo stepped forward. Let my knight test him. The silver knight struck its shield. The sound shook dust from the beams. My goblin sneezed again. The West Yard had been condemned after a training giant sat on the tool shed. Half the fence was gone. Broken practice dummies lay in wet grass. There were cracked wheels, bent nails, split boards, and a cart with 1 axle pointing toward the sky like a dead insect. To me, it looked like rubbish. The goblin looked at it as if someone had given him a palace. He picked up a board. He turned it over. Then he found a bent nail and began straightening it with a stone. Tell it to attack something, Miles said. I crouched beside the goblin. Do you understand me? He watched my face. His eyes were yellow and careful. Name? I asked, touching my chest. Caleb. He touched his chest. Rusk. The laughter behind us weakened. What do you want to do, Rusk? He pointed at the broken shed. Then he pointed at the board. Build. Then build. Tessa was standing close enough to hear. Her pencil stopped moving. I spent my 3 silver on a used hammer, a pouch of nails, a short saw, and a loaf of dark bread from the groundskeeper. It was everything I owned. Rusk accepted the tools with both hands. He broke the loaf in half and gave 1 piece back to me. Then he worked. He cut 2 boards to equal length. He used the rope from his waist as a measuring line and remained decent through pure confidence. He made 4 legs, braced them with crossed strips, and fixed a flat board on top. The workbench was ugly. One side was darker than the other. It also stood perfectly level on ground, where Professor Miles had nearly twisted his ankle. The system spoke inside my head. It said Rusk had completed the first structure of a settlement. He had received the builder profession at level 1. His strength rose from 4 to 5. His dexterity rose from 6 to 8. His profession experience rose by 20 points. Then the voice changed. It said my contract had found an invalid assumption. The world assumed that 1 summoning slot meant 1 creature. My contract did not recognize Rusk as an isolated creature. It recognized any people that Rusk accepted as his own. The slot would remain 1, no matter how many citizens joined. 1 slot. 1 nation. The hidden class king of the summoned nation became available. I chose it. The choice sealed my only slot forever. I could never replace Rusk with a knight or spirit. Citizens would be real, and anyone who died would not return. Nothing exploded. No golden wings appeared. My clothes did not improve. That was disappointing because my left shoe had a hole. Rusk simply looked at the broken yard and smiled. "What happened?" Tessa whispered. "He gained a profession." "Summons cannot gain professions." "This one did." She placed 2 fingers on the workbench and used her appraisal spell. Her eyes widened. "Builder level 1, she said. 20 experience. The crystal in the hole called him worthless 6 minutes ago." Only she and the groundskeeper heard. That was enough for the first test. Rusk repaired the cart next. He cut a new axle from the thickest beam in the fallen shed. I held the wood while he shaped it. Tessa forgot that she was an observer and held the wheel. The groundskeeper supplied oil after Rusk fixed his gate without being asked. When the cart rolled, the system awarded 40 profession experience. Rusk reached builder level 2. His dexterity rose to 10. He repaired 6 practice dummies. He turned a cracked barrel into a box of wooden pegs. He made a rack for the tools. With every task, his hands moved faster. Builder level 3 came after the 4th dummy. Builder level 4 came when the roof of the shed stopped leaning like a tired man. The groundskeeper appraised the repairs twice. Then he ran toward the main hall, shouting that the 3-copper Goblin had restored 12 silver worth of Academy property. The crowd returned before the hour was over. Students packed the fence. Teachers stood on benches. The public ranking board sent a small crystal to record the result. Hugo came last, walking slowly so everyone could see that he was not worried. Rusk did not look at them. He was staring at a rusted drain behind the tool shed. Something moved inside. A second goblin crawled out. He was thin, muddy, and bleeding from one leg. An iron collar hung open around his neck. When the crowd saw him, 3 students summoned weapons. "Wild monster," Miles said. "Kill it." Rusk stepped between them. The second goblin raised empty hands. He looked at the bread on our workbench, but he did not reach for it. Rusk picked up his remaining half. He tore it into 2 pieces and offered 1. The wild goblin ate slowly. Then he knelt. "Tib," he said. Rusk put a hand on his shoulder. "Tib, Home. The system spoke again. Rusk had accepted his first citizen. The population rose from 1 to 2. Tib received the scout profession at level 1. My occupied summoning slots remained 1 out of 1. The ranking crystal repeated those numbers aloud. For 3 full breaths, 800 students made no sound. Then everyone spoke at once. 2 summons? He only has 1 slot. The second one was wild. Why did it gain a profession? Can my wolf do that? One boy ordered his fire lizard to build a chair. The lizard bit him. Professor Miles pushed through the crowd and pressed both hands against the crystal. He appraised the contract, frowned, and appraised it again. "This is an error," he said. "The system has repeated the result 3 times, Tessa replied. "Then it is a serious error." Hugo laughed too loudly. 2 weak goblins are still weak. My knight can remove both in 10 seconds. The silver knight entered the yard. Sunlight slid over its armor. It looked like an expensive cooking pot that had learned to judge people. Rusk studied it. He studied the broken dummies. Then he looked at me. I understood. "The calibration charter allows a practical contest," I said. "Non-lethal? 1 minute. If my summon remains active, he has measurable defensive value." Hugo's smile returned. Agreed." Miles should have stopped him. Instead, he ordered the ranking crystal to begin. Rusk moved before the count. Thus, he and Tib pulled the repaired dummies into a narrow path. Rusk joined their bases with 2 long boards. Tib ran a rope through the cartwheel and hid the loose end under the grass. They worked so quickly that most students assumed they were panicking. I spent my remaining resource, which was 1 piece of dark bread. I put it on the last dummy. Tib understood at once. He took the bread and ran. The Silver Knight did not care about bread. Hugo cared about the laughter beginning around him. "Charge," he ordered. The knight charged Tib. Tib ran between the dummies. The knight followed. Its shoulder hit the first crossbar. The repaired frames folded inward exactly as Rusk intended. Hugo's summon smashed through 2, stepped on the hidden rope, and turned the cartwheel. The rope tightened. 4 dummy arms snapped down around the knight. The long boards rose. The silver warrior left the ground and swung sideways into the repaired tool rack. The rack did not break. The knight ended upside down, wrapped in 6 wooden arms with a bucket on its head. The ranking crystal counted 1 minute. Nobody laughed during the first 10 seconds. The sight was too strange. At 20 seconds, someone in the back made a choking sound. At 30, the groundskeeper sat down in the grass and slapped both knees. At 40, the entire west yard shook with laughter. Hugo ordered his knight to free itself. Every movement tightened another rope. The bucket stayed on. At 60 seconds, the crystal declared my defense successful. Rusk reached Builder level 5. Tib reached Scout level 2. My combat value rose from 3 copper to 38 silver. My academy rank moved from 800 to 311. The new number appeared on every public board in the school. Students ran toward the main courtyard to watch it. Messengers carried the result into town. The recording crystals replayed the bucket falling onto the knight's head until even the teachers stopped pretending not to smile. Hugo tried to pull the bucket off himself. It came loose without warning and knocked him backward into the cart. The cart Rusk had repaired rolled perfectly. It carried Hugo through the open gate and into a line of clean laundry. That part did not affect my rank, but it improved morale. Professor Miles had to enter the result. He also had to suspend my expulsion because any student above rank 500 qualified for housing until the monthly review. The Academy paid 12 silver for the repairs and 30 silver for the successful calibration. I had spent all 3 of my original silver So I now owned 42. I spent 2 on onions, carrots, mushrooms, a small piece of beef, lamp oil, and another loaf. 40 silver remained. Tessa followed us into the shed after sunset. Rusk had turned the restored corner into a kitchen. The stove was made from the cracked barrel and flat stones. Tib cut mushrooms with a repaired training knife. I browned the beef first, then added onions until their sharp smell became sweet. Carrots went in next. We poured water over everything and let the broth thicken while the bread warmed on a stone beside the fire. The shed smelled better than the noble dining hall. Rusk ate 1 careful spoonful. His ears rose. Tib ate 3 bowls and watched the pot like it might escape. Tessa dipped bread into the broth. "I have studied summons for 9 years," she said. "Nobody pays them. Nobody asks their names. Nobody asks what they want. That may explain why most of them look unhappy." She smiled. "You were calm while everyone laughed. I was counting the usable wood." That is not the heroic answer. A heroic answer would not have fixed the roof. Rain began a moment later. It struck the new boards and stayed outside. Tessa looked up at the dry ceiling. "Fine, your answer was better." After the meal, I put 10 silver in a wooden box. I told Rusk it was the settlement fund. He placed Tib's repaired knife beside it, then carved a small crown into the lid. The system recognized our workshop as the first building of a new capital. At midnight, Rusk drove 1 final peg into the floor. The hammer blow traveled through the boards and into the earth. Something answered. 1 knock came from below us, then 10, then 100. Green light flowed through cracks in the floor. The royal mark on our money box began to burn. The system said 312 surviving signatures had heard the call of the new capital. Far beneath the academy, voices that had been silent for generations spoke as one. "We remember." At sunrise, Professor Miles nailed an eviction order to our new door. Rusk opened the door at the same moment. The hammer struck his forehead, bounced off, and remained in the professor's hand. Neither of them moved. Tib looked from the nail to the hammer. Then he wrote a repair price on a scrap of wood and held it up. Professor Miles dropped the hammer. "This yard belongs to the academy," he said. "Your temporary housing right does not include commercial occupation. Pay a lease deposit of 2 gold before sunset, or remove every structure." 2 gold meant 200 silver. I had 40. Behind him, the path was crowded with students pretending to walk somewhere else. The recording of Hugo's night had spread through the city overnight. My rank had not changed again, but my name was the most searched name on the public board. Half the students came to see whether Rusk could build. The other half came to see Professor Miles destroy what he had built. Miles understood the audience. That was why he kept his voice polite. "You may take your tools," he said. "The wild creatures will be transferred to the academy collection." Tib stopped smiling. Rusk stepped in front of him. I took the notice from the door. "The lease rule gives us until sunset." "Correct. Then come back at sunset." Miles looked at the workbench, the new roof, and the 10 silver in our settlement box. He had expected shouting. Calm numbers made him nervous. "I will," he said. "Bring cages." He walked away with 6 guards. Tessa arrived carrying breakfast and 3 recording crystals. She watched the guards leave, then read the notice. 2 gold in 1 day, she said. He chose that amount because the yard is valued at 1 gold. Then we are buying 1 yard and 1 gold of spite. She opened her basket. Steam rose from folded flatbread. There were fried eggs with crisp brown edges, mushrooms cooked in garlic, and a small jar of apple jam. Tib smelt the GM and appeared beside her so quickly that she almost dropped it. We ate at Rusk's workbench. The eggs were hot, the mushrooms were salty, and the sweet jam made the dark bread taste like a noble dessert. Rusk gave Tib 1 spoon of jam. Tib stared at it, licked the spoon, and then checked the jar for a hidden entrance. "First problem," I said. "We need materials." Rusk pointed below the floor. The knocks had stopped before dawn, but Tib had found an old iron ring under the workbench. We moved the table and pulled. A square section of stone rose on hinges. Cold air came from a tunnel. Rusk went first. I followed with a lamp. Tessa came behind me because telling her to wait had the same effect as telling rain not to fall. The passage was narrow and old. Green symbols ran along the walls. Most had been cut away, but one repeated every 10 steps. It was the little crown Rusk had carved without seeing it before. We found 5 goblins in a storage room. They carried broken tools as weapons. One was old, 2 were young. One had burned hands. The largest held a hammerhead without a handle. They looked at Rusk, then at the warm light above us. The old goblin spoke first. "Forge?" Rusk nodded. "Home." The goblin with the hammer head lowered his weapon. "Cobb." Rusk touched Cobb's shoulder. He did the same for the others. The system counted each acceptance. Our population rose from 2 to 7. The occupied summon slots remained 1. Cobb gained the smith profession. 2 goblins gained builder. 1 gained porter. The old goblin gained cook after she smelled the breakfast and marched upstairs without waiting for permission. The 8th citizen was already in the room. I had assumed she was human. She stood in the darkest corner wearing a gray travel cloak. Her face looked about Tessa's age. Her hair was black, and a silver band covered one wrist. She watched Rusk accept the others, but did not kneel. "Who are you?" I asked. Someone who wanted to see what kind of king answered the seal. Her voice was calm, but the other goblins lowered their eyes. Rusk shook his head and pointed at me. "King?" That was the first time the title embarrassed me. The woman studied my worn coat and muddy boots. "He has no crown." Tib held up our money box. It had a crown carved into the lid. "A convincing argument," she said. She removed the silver band. Her skin changed from pale to deep green. Her ears lengthened. The gray cloak remained the same, which was fortunate because we had already used our clothing budget. "I am Yara," she said. "Last blood of Green Crown." The system recognized her as a citizen and a royal claimant. Our population reached 8. My slot remained 1. Tessa forgot to write. Yara looked toward the stairs. "You lit the royal forge above our burial tunnels. Now tell me why the children of our killers own the sky." "After we earn 2 gold," I said. She stared at me. "If we lose the yard at sunset, they will own the tunnel too." Yara considered that and put the silver band back on. Her human face returned. "Then we earned 2 gold." We climbed into the morning light with 8 citizens, 40 silver, and 6 hours. The groundskeeper had heard about the eviction. He rolled 28 damaged practice weapons into the yard and offered us the academy repair rate. Professor Miles had cancelled the order 10 minutes later. The groundskeeper had failed to hear him. Rusk organized the work without a speech. 2 builders sorted wood. Cobb shaped a handle for his hammer, lit the barrel forge, and taught 1 young goblin to pump the bellows. Tib inspected every storeroom and returned with 4 cracked wheels, 6 broken hinges, and a basket of bent nails that the academy had marked as waste. I checked the charter. Waste became the property of the person who removed it. We now owned 18 silver worth of iron. Cobb struck his first heated nail flat. The system awarded him 10 Smith experience. When he repaired the first sword guard, he reached Smith level 2. The apprentice watching him received 2 experience without touching the metal. That was the next consequence. A citizen could learn by observing a working professional inside our settlement. Rusk had needed 4 tasks to reach builder level 3. Under his guidance, the 2 new builders reached level 2 after completing 1 wheel each. Rusk rose to level 6 before noon. Tessa appraised every result aloud for the recording crystals. 6 citizens working, she said. 4 professions active. Total material value increased from 18 silver to 1 gold and 9 silver in 2 hours. Students outside the fence repeated the amount. By midday, the West Yard looked like a small market. People brought broken lamps, stools, buckles, and practice shields. I did not accept everything. We had a deadline, and a noble's decorative bird cage would not save our home. We repaired 18 practice swords, 4 wheels, 6 hinges, 2 handcarts, and 1 large cooking pot. The old cook claimed the pot before the owner could collect it. I paid him 3 silver and called it a national purchase. Our first public sale began after lunch. Tessa had invited an assessor from the City Craft Guild. Professor Miles arrived at the same time with the Academy quartermaster. Miles wanted the repairs declared unsafe. The assessor wanted to know why half the city was talking about a goblin with a hammer. The courtyard filled until the guards closed the front gates. Students leaned from windows. Shop owners stood on carts outside the wall. The public board displayed our provisional inventory and the current bid. The assessor chose a repaired sword at random. He bent it. He struck it against an academy blade. The academy blade broke near the handle. The repaired sword did not. Cobb looked at the broken weapon, held up 3 fingers, and pointed at his repair bench. The crowd laughed. The assessor bought the first 6 swords for 1 gold and 20 silver. A caravan owner bought both carts for 80 silver. The wheels sold for 40. The hinges and remaining weapons brought 1 gold and 20. Our total revenue reached 3 gold and 60 silver. The amount appeared on the public board. Hugo was standing near the fountain. He had spent more than that on Polish for his night during the previous month. He did not laugh now. Professor Miles stepped onto the sales platform. Stop this auction, he ordered. The labor was performed by contracted creatures on Academy land. All finished goods are therefore Academy property. The buyers fell silent. He had found a real legal argument. That made him more dangerous than Hugo. Miles was responsible for the summon department's funding. If Rusk proved that weak summons could grow, 9 years of his published research became wrong in 1 morning. The capital sponsors would ask why he had discarded hundreds of low-rank summons. His career was standing on our workbench, holding a hammer. I showed the assessor the salvage rule and our contract. Miles showed him the property rule. The assessor read both. Then Yara, wearing her human face, placed the old iron hammer head on the table. Green letters appeared across it. The assessor's appraisal spell translated them. Property of the Royal Forge of Green Crown, he read. Recorded 314 years before the Academy Charter. Professor Miles went still. That object came from Academy ground, he said. The ground appears to have come later, Tessa replied. The students repeated that sentence until it reached the windows. The assessor ruled that repaired Academy goods belonged to the Academy only after it paid the listed repair fee. Salvaged iron belonged to our workshop. Goods made from it belonged to us. Every sale stood. Our money moved from 40 silver to 4 gold. We spent 80 silver on coal, oil, wood, cloth, and food. We paid the 2 gold lease deposit before Professor Miles could speak again. 1 gold and 20 silver remained. The Craft Guild granted us a provisional workshop charter. The public board placed a small bronze hammer beside my name. My academy rank moved from 311 to 180 because license support work counted toward monthly value. That was when Miles gave up on law. He raised one hand. The 6 guards entered the yard carrying axes. "The tunnel is an unregistered security risk," he said. "Remove the structures and seal the floor." Tessa lifted a recording crystal. The lease is paid. The lease covers the ground, not what is under it. Rusk tapped my arm. During the sale, the builders had not been resting. They had cut every spare board into measured sections, wooden pegs weighted in labeled baskets. The work looked like another pile of goods. It was not. "Protect the citizens," I said. 8 goblins moved. Rusk and the builders raised the first frame. Cobb locked it with iron pins. Tib ran a rope through the upper joints. The cook rolled her new pot behind the wall because some treasures were too important for war. The guards crossed 20 steps. The first wall stood. They crossed 10 more. The second frame joined it. In 90 seconds, a wooden barrier surrounded the workshop. It had a gate, 3 observation gaps, a sloped roof, and a narrow chimney. The last guard stopped with his axe raised. The craft assessor inspected the joints from outside. "Legal, temporary safety structure," he announced. "Better than the North Dormitory." Students cheered from the fence. Professor Miles pushed toward the gate. The old cook opened the stove vent at the wrong moment. A cloud of black forge smoke covered his white robe. He came out gray from his boots to his hair. Only the circles around his eyes remained clean. Tib held up another repair price. The recording crystal caught everything. By the time Miles reached the main building, the public board had named the event the Siege of the Cooking Pot. 1,200 people had watched it live. 3 merchants offered to buy plans for the wall. The City Guild upgraded our charter from provisional to active. Professor Miles had arrived with an eviction notice. He left looking like an angry chimney. At sunset, we closed the new gate. The old cook filled her pot with chicken bones, onions, garlic, and barley. She added the mushrooms left from breakfast and small pieces of carrot. The broth became thick and golden. Cobb baked flatbread against the hot wall of the forge. Its edges blistered and the middle stayed soft. We ate inside the barrier while rain tapped the roof. I divided the day's remaining money. 40 silver went into the settlement box. 40 bought food for the next week. 20 became a tool fund. I placed the last 20 in 8 small stacks. "Wages," I said. Yara watched the goblins touch the coins. "Summoned creatures are not paid," Tessa said softly. "Citizens are." Rusk took 1 silver from his stack and put it back into the settlement box. The others copied him. Tib tried to copy them, changed his mind, and bought the rest of the apple jam. Tessa laughed until she had to wipe her eyes. Later, she helped me wash forge soot from the new sign. Her hand rested beside mine in the cold water. She did not move it. "You know Miles will go to Director Edgar," she said. "Yes. Edgar controls the Academy Guard, the ranking board, and every official dungeon assignment. Then tomorrow will be expensive." "You make danger sound like a shopping list." "Shopping lists are dangerous when Tib writes them." Across the yard, Tib was trying to add 6 jars of jam to the national budget. Tessa leaned against my shoulder for one quiet moment. Then green light came through the floor. Yara had placed the ancient hammerhead against the royal mark. The stone beneath our workbench opened like a book. Images rose in the air. We saw green towers under a bright sky. We saw workshops, gardens, schools, and children running between market stalls. Then human soldiers entered the city under white flags. The image broke before the attack. One sentence remained above the floor. The academy had carved its founding date into every gate. The Royal Archive showed that Green Crown had been destroyed 11 days earlier. Yara removed her silver band. Her human face vanished. Tears ran over green skin. "They did not build their school on empty land," she said. She looked toward the warm lights of the academy above us. "They built it on our graves." 6 days later, I woke to the sound of 32 hammers striking in time. Our population had risen from 8 to 32. The old tunnels held families that had survived by hiding from academy patrols and trading scraps with sewer workers. Rusk's forge light gave them a place to gather. Yara's seal gave them a reason to trust it. Our one summon slot still held all of them. The West Yard no longer looked condemned. It held 3 workshops, a kitchen, a covered storehouse, and 2 small dormitories. The fence stood straight. The gate opened without screaming. That last achievement placed our construction above half the academy. Growth had a price. 32 people ate more than 8. They needed blankets, boots, medicine, and tools. Every coin earned during the week had gone back into the settlement. Our treasury still held 1 gold and 20 silver. At dawn, the city guild delivered enough iron for 100 spearheads. The order was worth 20 gold. The raw material and coal cost 8. The guild had advanced those 8 against our charter. If we failed before sunset, we owed the full amount and lost the workshop license. Professor Miles had signed us for the order. His blackened robe had become the most popular image on the public board. He had not returned to the West Yard. He had discovered paperwork, which was the natural hiding place of a defeated professor. He sent the contract instead. 100 spearheads in 1 day, Tessa said. A licensed human forge needs 3. Miles expects us to fail. Director Edgar approved it? That was more important. Edgar had ruled the academy for 16 years. He cared about rank, donations, and safety in that order. 32 growing goblins threatened all 3. If Miles was a door, Edgar was the wall behind it. Rusk lifted 1 iron bar. Cobb lifted his hammer. The system spoke. Our settlement had reached 30 working citizens. The class king of the summoned nation could now evolve. It offered the next step, Lord of Development. I accepted. Again, no golden wings appeared. My left shoe was still broken. The new class did not make anyone stronger by itself. It changed how citizens learned. A professional who reached level 5 could teach 4 apprentices at once. Each apprentice received half of the teacher's working experience. When an apprentice reached level 3, that apprentice could guide a beginner at 1/4 speed. One master no longer produced 1 worker. One master produced the start of a chain. Cobb had reached smith level 10. He placed 4 apprentices around his forge. Each watched a different part of the process. One cut iron, one heated it. One shaped the point, one cooled and inspected it. Rusk did the same with 6 builders in 2 groups. Tib led 4 scouts through the academy rubbish routes and abandoned storerooms. The old cook taught 2 young goblins how to prepare breakfast for 32 people without burning the roof. That lesson failed once. The roof survived because Rusk had expected it. By the time the sun reached the eastern tower, Cobb's first group had reached smith level 3. Each of those 4 took 1 beginner. The forge doubled its rhythm. Tessa stood on a crate and called the numbers for 3 recording crystals. The first 10 spearheads required 1 hour and 12 minutes. The next 10 required 38 minutes. Quality remains above guild standard. Students crowded outside our gate. The academy had cancelled morning practice because nobody attended. Teachers arrived to pull students away, then stayed to watch. At the 50th spearhead, our population's total profession level passed 200. Every citizen inside the settlement received 1 point of endurance from the National Workshop bonus. At the 70th, Cobb reached Smith level 12. His 4 first apprentices reached level 5 and began teaching 4 more. At the 90th, the City Guild sent 2 extra assessors because the first assessor believed his appraisal spell was broken. We finished the 100th spearhead 2 hours before sunset. Cobb placed it beside the others. 100 points of steel reflected the forge light in 10 perfect rows. The guild assessors checked weight, balance, hardness, and edge. They rejected none. The public board confirmed the 20 gold payment. 8 gold returned to the guild for material and fuel. Our clean profit was 12 gold. With the money we already held, the treasury reached 13 gold and 20 silver. The crowd outside the gate began chanting Cobb's name. Cobb had never heard a crowd praise a goblin. He turned his back, pretended to inspect the forge, and wiped both eyes with an arm covered in soot. Rusk put one hand on his shoulder. Tessa lowered her crystal for a moment. Then the academy alarm rang. The gate opened, and Director Edgar entered with 40 guards, 6 instructors, and a granite golem. The golem was level 25. It was twice the height of our wall and wider than our kitchen. A brass plate on its chest carried the academy seal. Its fists were blocks of stone. Each foot could have served as a dining table for a large family. Edgar walked ahead of it in dark blue robes. He was not smiling. The students moved aside. The guild assessors did not. Caleb, Edgar said, your unauthorized settlement has grown from 2 monsters to 32 in less than 1 week. Citizens, I said. The law calls them contracted creatures. Yara stepped beside me in her human form. The law was written by the people who buried us. Edgar's eyes paused on her silver wristband. He knew more than Miles had known. This academy houses 4,000 students, he said. Parents have already sent 31 formal complaints. Our capital sponsors froze 100 gold this morning. If I ignore a growing armed population under the dormitories, I fail every person under my protection. That was a motive I understood. It did not make his solution fair. What do you want? I asked. A public safety trial. Your settlement will defend this yard against 1 academy unit for 10 minutes. If your people remain under control, I will extend the lease and recognize your charter. If they attack spectators, leave the boundary, or fail to hold the workshop, the guard will close the tunnels and relocate every goblin. The granite golem took 1 step. Our repaired cups shook on their shelf. What academy unit? Tessa asked. Edgar looked at the golem. The crowd shouted in protest. Even Hugo looked surprised. Edgar raised 1 hand. You claim their construction can replace combat strength. Prove it. I studied the yard. We had 3 workshops, 1 kitchen, 2 dormitories, a storehouse, 32 citizens, and less than 1 hour before the trial. The golem could walk through our front wall without noticing it. Rusk looked at its feet. Tib looked at the water pump. Cobb looked at the remaining coal. Agreed, I said. Edgar gave us 40 minutes. The public reaction reached the city before we moved the first board. 3,000 people gathered around the academy walls. Merchants climbed roofs. Parents rented viewing crystals. The ranking board displayed the trial beside my name. The odds board offered 1 silver for every 50 placed on us. I put 1 silver on Rusk. Tessa put 2. The goblins did not reinforce the front wall. That confused every instructor watching. Rusk ordered the builders to remove 3 sections. They dug shallow channels beneath them. Tib and his scouts connected the channels to the water pump. Cobb used the last coal to heat iron rods, then bent them into hooks. The old cook rolled sacks of flour out of the kitchen. I looked at her. She looked at the golem. I decided not to interfere with military planning. The fighters carried no blades. They held ropes and wooden poles. 6 young goblins wore shields made from old tabletops. Yara stood at the center with the royal hammerhead, but she did not remove her silver band. "Why are you hiding what you are?" I asked. "Because Edgar is testing whether humans fear goblins," she said. "I want to see his answer before he sees mine." Tessa joined us behind the inner barrier. "You are an observer," I said. "I am recording history. History is about to have stones thrown at it." She showed me a leather helmet. History prepared. The trial began at midday. The granite golem charged. It was not fast, but speed did not matter when every step covered 6 feet. The ground jumped. Students screamed and then pretended they had not. Rusk waited. The golem reached the broken front wall. Tib pulled the first rope. The water pump released into the channels. Mud spread under the dry topsoil. The golem's right foot sank to the ankle. It pulled free and stepped harder with the left. That foot sank to the knee. The crowd gasped. The golem punched the remaining wall. Rusk had removed the locking pegs. The whole section folded inward instead of breaking. Its upper edge struck the golem's chest and became a ramp. 6 goblins ran up it. They hooked ropes around the golem's shoulders, jumped down the far side, and pulled. The golem leaned forward. It did not fall. Edgar allowed himself a small smile. The old cook threw the first sack of flour. White powder covered the golem's face. The second sack burst against its chest. 2 builders opened the forge vents. Hot air and black soot blew across the wet flour. The golem could not breathe, but its vision crystal could no longer see. It turned toward the nearest heat source. That was exactly where Rusk had moved the academy dining shed. The golem charged blind. Its trapped leg broke free. It crossed the yard, struck the empty shed, and carried the roof away on its head. The roof settled around its shoulders. The level 25 war construct stood in the middle of our yard, wearing a small red building like a hat. The crowd became silent. Then someone shouted, "It needs a chimney." 10,000 people laughed through the viewing crystals. Edgar ordered the golem to continue. It turned left. The dining shed turned with it. Its door opened and closed with every step. Tib pulled the second rope. Iron hooks locked around the golem's knees. The fighters pulled from both sides. The mud shifted. The stone giant fell forward into the channels. Rusk dropped 4 prepared frames around its arms and neck. Builders drove pegs through the joints. Cobb poured water over the heated locks, shrinking them tight. The golem tried to rise. Our frames held. 1 minute had passed. Edgar sent 6 elite summons through the gate. A fire wolf leaped first. Tib's scouts raised wet blankets. The wolf hit them, rolled, and landed inside an empty water barrel. A horned cat jumped the inner wall. The old cook hit it with a wooden spoon. It became so confused that it sat down. 2 armored hounds reached the workshop. The young shield-bearers formed a narrow passage and guided them straight into the repaired cart. The cart rolled down the new ramp and stopped outside the boundary. The hounds had left the field. The ranking crystal removed them from the trial. The last 2 summons refused to enter after watching that. 10 minutes ended with every building standing. No spectator had been harmed. No goblin had left the yard. The granite golem remained trapped in mud, still wearing the dining shed. The ranking crystal declared our defense successful. For a few seconds, Director Edgar stared at the result. Then the City Guild assessor handed him a repair estimate. Rusk had priced the golem, the shed, and the muddy academy path at 3 gold. Edgar read the amount while thousands watched. "The path was damaged by your trap," he said. Rusk pointed at the golem's foot. The assessor nodded. "Damage caused by Academy equipment." Edgar paid. That did not change his mind, but it changed his face. Our treasury rose to 16 gold and 20 silver. Rusk reached builder level 15. 6 fighters gained the guard profession at level 4. 2 young goblins awakened basic earth magic after guiding the mud channels. Our settlement's public safety rating rose from unregistered to bronze. My academy rank moved from 180 to 47. The number appeared on the central tower. Students who had laughed 6 days earlier now wore small wooden crown badges. Merchants shouted offers through the fence. The odds board paid me 50 silver for my 1 silver bet. Tessa received 1 gold and immediately spent half on notebooks. Director Edgar signed the extended lease in front of the recording crystals. Then he took out a second document. "Every licensed Academy unit must complete a supervised dungeon raid," he said. "Your unit will enter the sealed lower dungeon in 11 days. Tessa's smile vanished. No student team had returned from that dungeon in 12 years. Edgar's motivation was no longer only safety. If we survived, the Academy gained a valuable force. If we died, his problem disappeared below ground. The public board displayed the assignment. The cheering weakened. Hugo looked at me from beyond the fence. For the first time, he did not appear pleased by my danger. He had wanted money and rank. Edgar was gambling 32 lives. After the crowd left, we restored the yard. The old cook made a late meal from 2 chickens bought with our winnings. She browned the skin in the large pot, then added potatoes, carrots, onions, pepper, and thick green herbs from the tunnel garden. The meat fell from the bones. The potatoes absorbed the broth. Cobb baked round loaves until their crusts cracked under our fingers. Everyone ate at 3 long tables Rusk built from the defeated dining shed. The goblins received equal shares of the 12 gold profit. Some bought boots. Some put their coins into the settlement box. One child bought a blue ribbon and tied it around Cobb's hammer. Tessa sat beside me. "You could leave," she said. "The charter allows you to resign before the raid." "Would the goblins be free?" "No." "Then I cannot leave." She slid her hand across the table and covered mine. "Good," she said, "because I registered as your second human party member." I looked at her. That was a poor financial decision. I learned from a king with a broken shoe. Before I could answer, a young woman entered through the gate. Celia wore the plain grey uniform of an Academy Records officer, but the seal at her throat belonged to the family that had founded the school. Hugo was her cousin. Duke Roland was her father. She would inherit the land if nothing changed. Every goblin at the tables became quiet. Celia placed an old map in front of Yara. "My family archive called the lower dungeon an empty mine," she said. It lied. Yara opened the map. Green crown filled the page. The academy stood over its outer workshops. The sealed dungeon marked the royal palace, the central forge, and a hall labeled Guardian Chamber. At the bottom, someone had added a newer order in red ink. Erase all surviving claimants. Yara's fingers tightened. "The Guardian will know my blood," she said. Celia shook her head. "Not anymore. My ancestor removed its royal core and replaced it with a dungeon parasite. The thing below attacks anything carrying the green crown seal." Rusk looked toward the ground. 32 hammers stopped moving. I finally understood Director Edgar's raid. It was not an examination. It was the second execution of Yara's people. 11 days later, Inspector Ivor arrived from the capital with a white griffin, 12 officials, and enough confidence to fill the dungeon by himself. He landed in the academy courtyard at sunrise. His griffin was level 30. Its feathers shone like fresh snow. Its gold harness cost more than every building in our settlement. Ivor wore white armor to match it and stepped down while 6 recording crystals followed his best side. Rusk watched the landing. Then he checked the griffin's left saddle strap and held up 2 fingers. "What does that mean?" Ivor asked. 2 silver, I said. "The strap is cracked." Ivor looked at the strap. It snapped. His travel chest fell into the fountain. 12,000 people were already connected to the public broadcast. The comments moved so quickly that the Academy board began smoking. Ivor did not pay the 2 silver. He inspected our force instead. Our population had reached 96. We had 20 builders, 16 smiths, 12 scouts, 24 fighters, 8 mages, 6 healers, 4 cooks, and 6 miners. Rusk was a level 22 builder. Cobb had reached smith level 18. Tib was a level 14 scout and owned 7 jars of jam. That last resource was private. Our treasury held 18 gold after food, tools, housing, and raid supplies. Every citizen had boots. Every fighter carried a spear from our own forge. We had 6 field carts, 4 portable frames, 2 ballista arms, 600 iron bolts, and 4 mana crystals. Ivor read the inventory twice. The raid permit allows 1 summoner, 1 assistant, and 1 contracted summon, he said. "Correct," I replied. He looked at the 96 goblins standing behind me. The contract crystal showed 1 occupied slot. That is abuse of procedure. It is accurate procedure. Only 1 goblin may enter. Tessa raised a copy of the Capital Code. The permit limits contracted summons, not bodies within a collective summon. Ivor stared at her. He had expected ignorant students and frightened monsters. He had found Tessa before breakfast. Director Edgar stood on the academy steps. Professor Miles remained behind him. Their reputations depended on the broadcast, so neither supported Ivor's order. "The contract is legal until the council rules otherwise," Edgar said. Ivor's expression did not change, but his griffin took 1 careful step away from him. "Fine," he said. "Let all of them enter. The capital will evaluate whatever returns." His confidence came back. He knew the lower dungeon's death record. He had also taken our official map, our academy rations, and the emergency return stone. He called those actions standard supervision. I called them 3 problems. Tib solved the first by stealing a look at the map while Ivor was arguing with Tessa. He copied it onto the inside of his shirt. The old cook solved the second. She had packed enough food for 3 days inside the field carts and labeled every box construction glue. Rusk solved the third by handing each builder a hammer. We did not plan to return through someone else's door. The entrance opened below the academy arena. Stone stairs descended into green darkness. Thousands of students filled the seats above. City squares displayed the same view through public crystals. Merchants offered bets on how long we would live. The most popular choice was less than 1 hour. Hugo stood near the gate with his silver knight. He had not mocked us since Edgar's trial. "Caleb," he called. I stopped. He threw me a polished steel buckle. "For your shoe." It did not fit, but I understood the gesture. "Keep your 80 gold," I said. He looked embarrassed. "Just come back." Celia stood beside Yara. She could not legally join the raid, but she had opened every family record she could find. She gave us a second map and a list of the Guardian's original commands. "Ivor reports directly to the council," she said. "If you prove the palace exists, he will try to claim it." Yara touched the royal hammer hidden under her cloak. "He can try. Tessa activated our 6 recording crystals. I stepped into the dungeon with 1 human partner and 1 summon. All 96 citizens followed. The gate closed behind us. The first chamber contained no monsters. It contained statues. Rows of stone goblins knelt with their hands tied behind their backs. Human names had been carved over the original inscriptions. The Academy had used the chamber as a trophy hall, then sealed it when the statues began speaking at night. Yara removed her silver band. The broadcast showed her green face to the world. For several seconds, nobody above us understood. Then the royal seals on every statue began to glow. The city viewing count rose from 12,000 to 21,000. Yara placed her hand on the first statue. "You were not monsters," she said. "You were remembered." The stone figure opened its eyes. It pointed towards the eastern wall. Tib checked the copied map. The official route went west through 7 monster rooms. The statue pointed toward a passage erased from both human maps. Our miners struck the wall. The stone broke after 6 blows. Behind it lay a rail tunnel, a storage vault, and 30 tons of clean iron ore. The system recognized the vault as abandoned property of Green Crown. Our national inventory gained 30 tons of iron, 12 crates of copper tools, and 2 intact mana lamps. The public broadcast displayed the discovery. Every merchant who had bet against us tried to cancel. The odds board refused. We moved through the rail tunnel and avoided 4 monster chambers. Tib's scouts found old warning marks before every trap. The builders repaired 2 bridges. The mages restored green lamps that had been dark for 3 centuries. In 43 minutes, we reached the outer palace. That was when the dungeon attacked. The floor split. Black roots burst through the stone and wrapped around the first field cart. A creature pulled itself from below. It had the body of a giant lizard, 6 stone legs, and 2 jaws placed one above the other. A broken crown grew from its back. Dark crystal filled its eyes. The appraisal voice named it the Crown Eater. Level 45. Corrupted Royal Guardian. It was more than 5 times the average level of our fighters. Its first roar broke a mana lamp and knocked 3 goblins from their feet. Its second opened the upper jaw. Acid struck the floor where we had been standing. Rusk gave one sharp command. The nation moved. Scouts pulled the injured back. Healers washed the acid with prepared lime water. Fighters formed 2 shield lines. Builders released the field carts and rolled them into a square. The Crown Eater charged. Our front shields lasted 1 hit. 12 broke. The fighters behind them survived because each broken shield had been tied to a flexible frame. The impact spread through the wood instead of through their bodies. Still, 2 goblins were badly hurt. Their pain reached me through the national contract. It felt like hot iron across my ribs. I fell to 1 knee. That was another cost of my class. The nation was 1 summon. Damage to its citizens could not remain separate from its king. Tessa caught my arm. "Can you continue?" "Yes." That did not sound convincing. "Convincing costs extra." Rusk looked at me. I nodded. He ordered retreat. The Crown Eater followed us into the rail tunnel. It expected prey. It found a construction site. The miners cut support stone from the walls. Builders locked the portable frames together. Smiths fixed iron plates over the joints. Mages placed the 4 mana crystals at equal distances. Fighters drove the creature back with long spears while the carts unfolded. The broadcast timer counted. 10 minutes, 20, 30. At 38 minutes, a stone fortress stood across the tunnel. It had 2 walls, 1 gate, 4 firing platforms, a medical room, a kitchen, and a forge. We had used 20 tons of local stone, 600 iron bolts, 4 mana crystals, and every portable frame. The system recognized it as a national stronghold inside claimed territory. Every citizen within 30 paces gained 2 strength and 4 defense. Healers received 20% more recovery power. Builders recovered stamina while touching a completed wall. The Crown Eater struck the gate. It held. The public viewing count passed 40,000. Students who had called Rusk 3 copper rubbish now shouted his name in the arena. The City Guild displayed his fortress plan on its main board. 3 military companies sent purchase requests before the second attack. Inspector Ivor stood in the viewing box with his arms folded. He told the audience the fortress was temporary panic. The Crown Eater hit the gate a 3rd time. Rusk added a repair price to the outside. Even Director Edgar laughed. We had a fortress, but we did not have victory. The creature regenerated every crack. Dark roots connected it to the palace floor. Its level remained 45. Our fighters were tired. 2 healers had used half their mana. Rusk looked at the kitchen. The old cook understood. She lit the ovens. For 15 minutes, while the Crown Eater attacked our wall, we ate. The meal was simple and hot. The cooks poured strong broth over smoked meat, onions, and dried mushrooms. They added thin strips of flatbread that softened without falling apart. Pepper warmed my throat. Garlic covered the taste of dungeon dust. Teeb guarded his jam with one hand and passed me a bowl with the other. Tessa sat beside me on the fortress step. Her shoulder touched mine. 40,000 people are watching us eat, she said, then chew with dignity. Rusk dipped bread into his broth and stared at the enemy through the firing gap. Every goblin followed his eyes. The creature hit the gate again. Nobody hurried. That calm frightened Ivor more than our wall. After the meal, Yara spread Celia's list of Guardian commands on the floor. The original Guardian protected the royal core. The parasite had replaced that core, but the body still obeyed one physical rule. It could not turn its back on the throne. The throne stood inside the palace. We were outside. Then we moved the throne, I said. Yara stared at me. It weighs 12 tons. Rusk smiled. Our miners cut through the palace side wall. Scouts entered through the gap while fighters kept the Crown Eater against the fortress. Inside they found the throne on a raised stone platform. Builders did not lift it. They built rails under it. Cobb turned the broken academy weapons into wheels. Mages reduced friction with air. 96 citizens pulled one national rope. The royal throne moved. The recording crystals showed 12 tons of green stone rolling down the palace corridor like a very angry piece of furniture. The Crown Eater froze. Its lower jaw faced our fortress. Its upper body tried to turn toward the throne behind it. The parasite pulled one way. The guardian body pulled the other. Black roots tore from the floor. Now, I said. The gate opened. Tibb's scouts ran first and marked the exposed roots. Mages heated them. Fighters drove our spearheads into the glowing lines. Cobb fired both ballista arms at the cracked crown. The first bolt broke one point. The second entered the dark crystal beneath it. The Crown Eater screamed. Its 6 legs collapsed in different directions. Rusk led the builders onto its back. They did not attack the armor. They hammered iron wedges into every existing crack, then struck them together. Stone plates separated. Yara climbed between them. She placed the royal hammer against the black core. "You guarded us once," she said. "Rest now." The green seals in the chamber answered. The parasite lost control for 1 second. I felt every citizen through the contract. 96 minds, 96 professions, 96 people pushing one purpose through one slot. Break it. Cobb's hammer fell. The dark core shattered. The Crown Eater dropped to level 0. Silence filled the dungeon. Then the public crystals announced the first successful clear of the lower dungeon in 12 years. Our time was 1 hour and 47 minutes. Rusk rose to Builder level 26. Cobb reached Smith level 22. Tib reached Scout level 17. 12 fighters advanced into the Knight profession. 4 mages gained the Stonecaster profession. The 2 injured goblins recovered enough to stand. The dungeon awarded 64 gold. It granted Green Crown ownership of the Iron Vault and a mine projected to earn 20 gold each week. Our treasury rose from 18 gold to 82. The city went mad. People filled the streets around the public boards. The Craft Guild promoted our settlement to silver. The raid office issued me a silver license. My academy rank moved from 47 to 3rd. Hugo's name dropped to 4th. He looked at the board, laughed once, and applauded. Inspector Ivor did neither. He entered the dungeon through the emergency path after the boss died. His white griffin followed. 12 capital officials carried empty treasure cases. All dungeon rewards discovered during an academy examination belong to the Royal Summoning Council, he announced. Tessa kept every recording crystal active. The dungeon granted them to Green Crown, she said. Green Crown does not exist. Yara stood beside the restored throne in her true form. Say that again, she replied. Ivor held up a capital seal. By authority of the Council, all unregistered intelligent summons are property. The goblins, their structures, and their discoveries are confiscated. The royal palace woke. Green fire moved through the floor. Statues opened their eyes. The repaired guardian lowered its head before Yara and Rusk. The dungeon voice spoke through every crystal above and below ground. It recognized Green Crown as the previous sovereign owner. It recognized our national contract as the lawful continuation of its people. It rejected the Royal Summoning Council's claim. Ivor raised his seal. I reject this result. The dungeon rejected him. A green circle opened under his boots. He vanished with his officials and griffin. The public broadcast followed the destination. Inspector Ivor appeared in the academy fountain. His white armor became green with pond water. His griffin landed on top of him. 3 fat fish entered his open travel chest, which was still floating there from the morning. 40,000 viewers saw everything. Tib held up 2 fingers towards the crystal. The saddle repair price had not changed. Ivor climbed from the fountain just as the ground began to shake. Green towers of light rose around the academy. Ancient boundary stones pushed through gardens, roads, and training fields. Every stone carried the crown mark. The dungeon voice announced one final result. The academy occupied the surface territory of Green Crown without a valid treaty. It had 12 days to return the land. If it refused, every defensive structure beneath the city would awaken. Above us, thousands of people stared at the ground under their homes. Below them, Yara touched the throne she had lost. The academy had sent us into the dungeon to erase the last claimants. Instead, the dungeon demanded its kingdom back. On the 30th day of my new life, 312 goblins ate breakfast above ground. Not one hid in a tunnel. Long tables filled the academy arena. Cooks served crisp potatoes, smoked meat, warm bread, and honey carrots. The old cook gave everyone berry jam. She gave Tib a locked jar and kept the key. Our deadline ended at noon. Roland would demand his land. Yara would demand her kingdom. And the city would learn whether the defenses under its streets would wake. People expected war. Rusk expected everyone to finish breakfast first. In 12 days, our population had reached 312. We had 40 builders, 32 smiths, 20 scouts, 60 fighters, 24 knights, 18 mages, 16 healers, 22 farmers, 12 cooks, 20 miners, and 48 citizens maintaining homes, schools, records, and gardens. Rusk was a level 30 builder. Cobb was a level 27 smith. Tib was a level 21 scout with 14 pockets and 6 hidden jars of jam. Our treasury had grown from 82 gold to 186. We had food for 40 days. The public board ranked me first in the academy, above Hugo, who now used his silver knight to carry benches. The knight still avoided buckets. Celia had spent 12 nights assuring human families that Yara would not steal their homes. Yara sat beneath the old crown banner, no longer looking like the last survivor of a dead kingdom. Tessa sat beside me. She had repaired my shoe with Hugo's steel buckle. "You finally look like a king," she said. "Because both shoes, clothes? It is a low standard." She handed me warm bread covered in butter and honey. "Are you afraid?" "Yes. If I lost, the council would call 312 people property." Tessa covered my hand. "I saw you before the class and the money. You had 3 silver and 1 naked goblin. You still asked what he wanted." Rusk heard her. "Build," he said. That answer became expensive. He grinned. The arena gates opened. Duke Roland entered with 200 house guards and a level 52 sun lion. The lion's mane burned without smoke, and gold armor covered its chest. It walked like a creature that had never met Rusk. Roland wore the founder seal at his throat. His face looked like Celia's, sharpened by years of giving orders. Inspector Ivor followed him in green armor. His new color had caused great joy on the public boards. 12 council officials carried legal chests. 40 recording crystals rose above them. The tribunal was connected to every academy, guild hall, and city square in the region. The viewing count passed 60,000 before Roland reached his seat. Rusk stood. 312 goblins stood with him. The sound of their chairs moving together rolled through the arena. Roland's guards stopped smiling. At noon, the city magistrate read 3 claims. Roland held a royal deed. The academy claimed permanent use. Green Crown claimed original ownership and survival. Roland did not call us weak. He had watched the raid. 20,000 humans live here, he said. 4,000 students sleep above these tunnels. I will not surrender their homes to a month-old contract. The human section applauded. They feared losing homes and shops more than they cared about an old crime. Yara rose. The arena became quiet. "We do not want their homes," she said. "We want our name, our graves, our palace, our mines, and the right to stand beneath the sun without being called property." 312 citizens remained standing in silence. The city magistrate looked at me. "Caleb, the system identifies you as contract ruler. What do you demand?" I placed our proposed charter on the table. Green Crown receives its palace, workshops, and mines. Every resident keeps the home or shop they occupy for an annual lease of 1 silver. The academy may remain for 30 gold each week. Nobody is punished for a crime committed before they were born. Roland's family charged 12 silver each month. Merchants began calculating. Residents read the charter. The academy accountants looked ill, but Edgar remained seated. "We can pay it," he said. Edgar shrugged. "Our dungeon income increased by 80 gold this week." The audience laughed. Roland did not. "A generous offer made with stolen authority is still theft," he said. "Produce proof that your kingdom survived." Yara lifted the royal hammer. The arena floor opened. The archive rose from below on a platform Rusk had built. It was a black stone cube covered in green marks. Celia walked beside it, carrying her family's oldest record book. Roland stood. "Celia, father, return to your seat." This is my seat." She took the chair between the human residents and the goblin citizens. There was no romance in the gesture. There was responsibility. Celia would inherit the result whether she wanted it or not. Yara pressed the hammer to the archive. Light filled the arena. The archive showed goblin smiths trading with humans and children of both peoples sharing a school. Then the Academy founders entered under white flags, poisoned a celebration feast, locked the gates, and burned the palace. 4,812 citizens died. 312 escaped into sealed tunnels. The founders stole the mines and registered every survivor as a wild monster. The last image showed Roland's ancestor taking the royal deed 11 days after the massacre. The viewing count passed 100,000. Students removed founder badges. Professor Miles covered his face. Roland remained standing. "Images can be altered," he said. Celia opened the family record book. "Then use our blood seal." She cut one finger and pressed it to the final page. The founder seal around Roland's neck answered. Red words appeared above the tribunal. The seal declared the deed stolen through broken treaty and unlawful execution. It confirmed the archive. Roland's land claim collapsed before every viewing crystal. Human residents turned away from him, and Edgar removed the founder seal from the Academy banner. Inspector Ivor stepped forward. "This tribunal has no authority over contracted creatures," he said. "Under capital law, intelligent summons remain property. Their memories do not create sovereignty." "They were here before the contract," Tessa said. "Then they are unregistered monsters." Tib held up the silver raid license issued by Ivor's own office. The audience laughed. Ivor's green face became red. Roland gripped the founder seal. "Celia, come here." She did not move. Fear crossed Roland's face. The truth meant criminal review, a lost title, and the end of his family's power. He looked at the capital crystal. Alden, head of the Royal Summoning Council, appeared inside it. More than 300,000 active contracts carried his seal. "Destroy the archive," Alden said. Roland closed his eyes. Then he obeyed. The Sun Lion roared. Its fire swept across the arena. Rusk struck his hammer once. Every breakfast table moved. They had never been only tables. Builders pulled hidden pins. Tabletops rose into shield walls. Benches locked into frames. Iron plates slid from beneath the floor. In less than 30 seconds, 3 rings of temporary fortification surrounded the citizens, the human residents, and the archive. The fire struck the first ring. Mages pulled the heat into 12 copper rods. Smiths dropped the rods into water tanks. Steam covered the arena, but did not touch the archive. The public crystals continued recording. Roland had tried to erase evidence before 100,000 witnesses. His guards charged. 24 goblin knights met them with shields and flat spear shafts. They did not stab, they redirected. Every charging guard entered a narrow wooden lane. Gates closed behind groups of 10. Within 1 minute, 200 house soldiers stood in 20 separate boxes. Rusk had built a filing system for an army. The Sun Lion jumped the first wall. Tib ran under it. He tied one rope to the gold armor. The lion landed and charged the archive. 60 fighters pulled the rope through a wheel assembly. The armor turned. The lion turned with it. Its own weight carried it around the central platform in a wide circle. It ran faster. The wheel spun faster. The level 52 Sun Lion began orbiting the tribunal like an angry golden cart. The audience stared. Hugo's Silver Knight caught the outer rope and added its strength. Roland looked at him. "You serve this family." Hugo swallowed. "I wanted Caleb's scholarship. I did not agree to burn children." He ordered his knight to pull. The lion completed another circle. Inspector Ivor tried to reach the archive from behind. The old cook opened the kitchen gate. He stepped on a potato covered in butter and fell into the breakfast cart. The cart rolled down Rusk's ramp and carried Ivor through clean laundry. That victory lasted 3 seconds. Roland tore the founder seal from his neck and forced mana into it. Every old Academy statue woke. Stone heroes around the arena raised swords. The central founder monument cracked free from its base. It was the same kind of statue that had killed me in my previous life. I did not enjoy the pattern. The largest statue fell toward the human seats. Rusk saw it first. The Goblin Knights were holding guards. The builders were protecting the archive. The mages were controlling fire. There was nobody free. I sent one command through the national contract. Save them. Every citizen moved. 40 builders released the inner wall. 60 fighters dropped their ropes. 18 mages pushed air beneath the falling stone. Smiths rolled support frames into place. Scouts pulled children and old people from the first rows. The statue struck our frames. Wood broke. The force traveled through the national contract. Pain filled my arms and spine. I heard 312 voices gasp together. Nobody died. The statue stopped 6 feet above the crowd. Rusk stood beneath its stone face with both hands on one cracked beam. His knees shook. He looked very small. Then 311 citizens put their hands against the connected frames. They lifted. The statue rolled away from the seats and crashed onto the arena sand. Its stone head broke off. It rolled to Roland's feet and stopped facing him. The public crystals showed the founder staring at his own heir. Roland dropped the seal. Yara placed the royal hammer on our proposed charter. The system spoke. Our nation had passed 300 citizens. It held recognized territory. It had saved residents who did not share its blood. One condition remained before the class, Lord of Development, could evolve. The people had to accept a law together. Yara read the charter aloud. It promised citizenship by choice, equal protection, paid labor, safe homes, public records, and judgment for actions rather than birth. She asked the nation to vote. Rusk struck his hammer once. Cobb answered. Tib answered. One by one, 312 tools struck wood, iron, and stone. Every citizen accepted. The class creator of civilizations awakened. The change did not give me a new attack. It gave the nation legal form. Every home, road, wall, forge, farm, school, and tunnel registered as one connected civilization. Profession bonuses traveled between public buildings. Records could no longer be altered by an outside owner. Any resident who accepted the charter could receive its protection without becoming my summon. One contract still occupied one slot. It now held a kingdom. Green light crossed the arena and entered the old boundary stones. The founder's seal cracked. Roland's control over the statues vanished. The stone warriors lowered their weapons. The sun lion stopped running, lay down, and stared at its dizzy reflection in a water tank. The house guards opened their wooden boxes and surrendered. The city magistrate stood amid the broken tribunal. He read the ruling while 100,000 people listened. Green Crown was recognized as the lawful surviving owner of the royal district, palace, workshops, and mines. Current residents kept their homes under the one silver lease. The Academy accepted a weekly lease of 30 gold. Roland's family owed 600 gold in initial restitution. The payment raised our treasury from 186 gold to 786. The mine and academy lease would bring 50 gold each week before expenses. Yara became the recognized crown heir. The citizens named Rusk First Builder. They named me regent of the summoned nation until Yara formed a permanent council. My academy rank disappeared from the board. In its place appeared a new status, sovereign ally. The same students who had laughed at a naked level 1 goblin now stood and bowed to him. Rusk looked at the thousands of people. Then he noticed that one section of the arena wall leaned slightly. He walked away from the ceremony to repair it. That was why the kingdom trusted him. The magistrates arrested Roland. Celia walked beside her father and promised the residents that the new agreement would stand. Hugo helped remove the wooden army boxes. Miles gave Yara the academy records of every captured goblin. I was wrong, he said. That sentence took 30 days. I had many papers to move. Edgar signed the lease and asked whether it covered arena repairs. Rusk held up 5 fingers. It did not. At sunset, humans and goblins ate together in the west yard. The cooks served roasted chicken with crisp skin, thick onion gravy, buttered potatoes, honey carrots, fresh bread, and bowls of berry jam. The forge lamps made the new walls glow. Children ran through the gate without checking which side they belonged to. Tessa found me on the workshop roof. Below us, Rusk directed the first tower of the restored capital. Cobb's forge rang. Tib tried to open the old cook's jam box with a scout tool and failed. "You did it," Tessa said. "They did it." "You asked, you counted, you stayed." She took my hand. "That sounds less heroic every time you list it." I did not come for a heroic answer. She kissed me once. It was warm and brief. No system message appeared. I was glad. Some things did not need experience points. Then every capital crystal in the kingdom turned black. Alden appeared above the academy. Behind him stood 3 legions of council soldiers. Their armor carried hundreds of thousands of contract seals. Griffins filled the sky over the capital. War constructs waited on roads leading toward Green Crown. The tribunal has no authority to free summon property, Alden said. The Royal Summoning Council declares Caleb, Yara, and every citizen of Green Crown enemies of the Crown. Surrender the national contract within 7 days or face extermination. The celebration became silent. Our kingdom was 30 days old. The council had ruled for 300 years. Rusk climbed onto the wall beside me. He looked at the 3 legions. He looked at our workshops. Then he raised the same used hammer I had bought for 3 silver. 1 hammer answered from the forge. 10 answered from the walls. 100 answered from the streets. Across the kingdom, 312 citizens raised their tools. Alden smiled from the crystal. Let us see whether one summon can survive an empire. Rusk struck the first stone of our new fortress.